Here we go. Click and go live. Can you pull us up on your phone? See if we're up? I'm going to do it. I guess I could do it on mine. What? Can you pull us up on your phone? See if we're up? Well, there you are. There we are.
Yep, I can see us.
Okay, I can kind of hear. Can you put it up to your ear just for a second? Turn the volume down a little bit and talk a little bit. Then I'll talk a little bit. I just want to see if you come through on my microphone. Hamana, 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 hamana.
Yeah, we're coming through all right. I can hear it.
What about you overlap as far as me and you?
I'm a little quieter, but I can hear the both of us. That's probably about as good as it's going to get, and I ain't want to fuck with it.
But you can hear you just fine?
I'm quieter than you, but I can hear everything I'm saying.
See, that's weird, because I have my volume down lower than yours. Oh, shit. My Dr. Disrespect video took off. It's sitting at 63 views right now. Woohoo! Okay. This is... What round even is this? Of us trying to do this?
Like 9 at least. That's going to be almost.
Yeah.
8 or 9.
Absolutely ridiculous. So... It's been an hour. I was trying to get us to go up live an hour ago. So anybody who comes back to watch, I'm sorry. Streamlabs is a bitch. I'm going to try to save my thumbnail. Because it was a good thumbnail. Ah, it's not it. Fuck. Oh well. That sucks so much, dude, because it was a good thumbnail.
I should make coffee while I'm waiting. How long is it going to take you to get the thumbnail?
No, we're live right now, dude.
Well, it's going to take me like 30 seconds. Give you a chance to get your thumbnail together.
Okay, go ahead. It'll give me a chance to do an introduction, too, anyway. Alright, anybody watching? Hi. Tried doing this a couple of different times. It has been an absolute nightmare. Like, my chat's not even pulled up on the fucking screen because Streamlabs is being a bitch. And yeah, we are going to hopefully get this up and rolling when he gets back. So, full context, I have watched The Acolyte. He has not, which is why I wanted to do this. That way there's a different perspective on things. He hasn't seen it, and as a Star Wars fan, I got a list of a couple different things from each episode that I want him to kind of react to. And yeah, Streamlabs has been absolutely horrible when it comes to that. So I'm hoping... there it is. Yes. It looks stupid, but oh well, is what it is. Alright, let me back out of that. Do this. Do that. This. And switch it up. Aha, there we go. That is the thumbnail I want. Alright. So yes, watched Acolyte episode 5 of 8. There's 8 total. There's going to be 8 total. Yeah. Oh. Got the phone up, just making sure everything's running well, and then we're going to go ahead and kind of discuss it whenever he comes back. I appreciate everybody who popped in for that Dr. Disrespect video. That thing's taken off. I didn't expect it to take off that well. Yeah, that thing's flying off the rails. I didn't expect it to do that good. 60 in 3 hours, yeah. You know, some people say you can't post something to Twitter and then get people in to watch it, but that's not necessarily true. I decided to test the waters on that, but we will get into the Acolyte stuff as soon as he gets back. And yeah, so anybody who's watching, go ahead and post a comment below. I got everything set up now finally to where I should be able to see everything. This was a nightmare, to say the least. Yeah, so anybody in the chat, have you seen Acolyte? Any of the Disney Star Wars stuff?
All right. Let's get this absolute disaster underway, shall we?
We have, I don't know if you have the screen pulled up, but according to YouTube stuff, we have like 4 people watching right now. So, might as well get into it. So, what is that?
Okay, y'all left the spaghetti out all night long.
Really?
Don't ask.
Okay, can we do this?
Love you, Goo.
Love you too, Mom. Jesus.
Oh wait,
Mom, we're streaming live right now.
Dude, leave!
I'm about to do this by myself.
Far after all the bullshit and pain we just went through.
Can we?
Yeah, she's going to bed now.
Okay. So, let's try this again. I already did the introduction stuff. This is the most cursed thing I've ever done for fucking YouTube, like, ever. But why don't you go ahead and let folks know your experience with Disney Star Wars?
Oh, okay. Well, not that it matters, but I'm his older brother. Disney Star Wars. I would say dumpster fire, but a dumpster has structure to it. So, I can't even give it that. Disney Star Wars has been, aside from the Clone Wars, the show, pretty much unilaterally has been awful. In just about every conceivable way. I remember when we went to see Force Awakens, and I remember being pissed off about 15 minutes in. Because it started to, I was like, I could already telegraph the way this is going to go. This feels like they're going to just repackage the same thing we saw already, and they're going to sell it to us as a brand new thing. And sure enough, that's exactly what it was. I have not had a theater experience since where I have been more angry walking out of it than I was that movie. And that just sort of set the tone for everything that happened after.
So, the last thing you watched was Rise of Skywalker, right? No, you would have seen the 7th season of Clone Wars, right? The one where Ahsoka arrests Darth Maul at the end?
Yeah, I've seen all of Clone Wars. I've seen fucking kids out there in their goddamn bikes. I've seen all of Clone Wars. I've seen bits and pieces of Ahsoka, just YouTube clips, and I've seen bits and pieces of the Obi-Wan show.
So from the bits and pieces, because I'm pretty sure you probably saw the best of, what'd you think of those?
Golly. So for Ahsoka, I saw the sequence where she's basically in the space between time, and it like throws back to the Clone Wars, and she duels Anakin. I thought that was pretty dope, actually. I like that they gave him some screen time as Darth Vader without the suit on, essentially, like he was in Revenge of the Sith before Mustafar. I thought that was really cool. It was nice to see Hayden Christensen back, and he still had the skills, you know, like it was really cool to see somebody who actually knew how to duel actually have to duel. And then for the Obi-Wan, again, I saw the fight sequences with Darth Vader, and I loved those. I thought they were way better than anything they put in the movies, the Disney movies. I thought that it was the fight felt more real in that you had Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor actually battling each other. You know, again, like there was actually like you could almost feel the stakes there. You know, it wasn't two actors who were pretending to be these characters or somebody else in the suit. It was these two guys, and they still had it, and it felt very, very good to watch. I thoroughly enjoyed that. I liked to see Darth Vader flex on you, and I liked how raw that duel felt. Outside of that, I mean, it sounded like it was pretty ass.
Oh, it was. It was definitely ass. Lacey's in the chat. Yeah, this is as loud as we can get him. Unless he's got that microphone I gave him and he plugs that in.
Dude,
So,
I moved 1,300 miles. I can just speak louder if you need.
can you get a little closer? That might help a little bit. Okay, well, Lacey, if you're still watching, we'll have him speaking a little bit more here in a second so we can go ahead and keep going. So, what I thought I would do before we get into episode 5 is I have a list of 5 things from each of the episodes so far and kind of get your impressions on them since you haven't seen the show so far.
Okay.
And see what you think about the stuff that they put in there, and then we'll get your general reaction. So I'll go one at a time, and if you have a comment, I guess, just go for it.
All right.
So Acolyte episode 1, the introduction episode, I would like to note, was boring and mid as fuck. And in my opinion, when it comes to a show, your first episode has to bang. Your first episode is your hook. It's like the cover of the book. It's like your first couple of chapters, your prologue, whatever. It's got to be the thing that gets someone interested in reading the rest of the novel or watching the rest of the show. That's why a lot of movies start off with something big happening. I mean, the first one that comes to mind is Outbreak. Do you remember how Outbreak starts? The Dustin Hoffman, Morgan Freeman movie?
Yeah. Starts with if I recall correctly, it starts with the sound of a gunfight, and then they visit the hospital and they blow it up.
Exactly. A big bang and a hook to literally to keep people interested. Would you agree that the first episode in the show would more than likely have to be a big hook to keep people going?
I would say that depends. So, if you are selling or trying to sell a property that is not established with characters that no one knows, yes, you would need to have either some grandiose action set piece or a chase sequence or something along those lines to convince people to stick around, especially because obviously the beginning episode you're trying to get people primarily associated with the protagonist, almost exclusively. However, in an established franchise like Star Wars or Marvel or pick any of a number of them, not so much, because the allure is more so, even if maybe there's not this great character hook that gets you in the beginning, the allure is seeing the world, seeing what the sort of the tone of it going in is going to be. So for something that's established, maybe not so much. You might not need to have such a big grandiose sequence in order to get people interested because it's Star Wars, so I want to stick around to see what they're going to do with this. Now, the catch to this is that can be done well. It can also be done as a way to sort of act as an excuse for the fact that you have a shit product, right? You're capitalizing on the member berries and the nostalgia because you don't have anything of substance there. And it sort of seems like maybe that's the way that the Acolyte went. They capitalized on Star Wars to the detriment of having anything of any substance there for anybody to watch.
Well, the problem with that is it's boring as fuck. So they didn't even manage to do that. And as a matter of fact, I would say that most of the people that hate this are the Star Wars fans. And then I don't know if you know this or not, but Star Wars Theory was on board for the first 2 episodes. Like he didn't say like they were outstanding, but he said that they were decent enough. And then the third one happened, and that's pretty much where it shot off the rails for him. And then as soon as he got done doing his review for it and his reaction or whatever, people were starting to call him out on it. And then he saw episode 4, which is the one with Ki-Adi-Mundi. That one really set him off because it was, of course, they added about 50 more years to Ki-Adi's life. And according to George Lucas, that species only has like a 50-year lifespan. So he kind of jumped off the band train. And I haven't heard what he's thought about the one that came out tonight, because we literally been trying to set this up since that was over. Like, literally the episode ended, we tried doing this shit, and it has not been going well. We're kind of trucking right now. But he...
And I would agree with you that a lot of the people that are pissed off about that obviously are going to be the established fans. And again, that's why I was saying is you can use the fact that your property or that your show is set in a big, well-known universe like Marvel, Star Wars, The Matrix, Castlevania, Godzilla, whatever it might be. You can use that as the hook itself. If you're going for more of a slow burn vibe, you can use the allure of being in this world, telling a story people haven't heard before with characters no one's seen before, as enough to get people to stick around long enough for that slow burn to start rolling, and then slowly introduce elements of intrigue that keep people interested. But where the Acolyte seems to have gone wrong is shit-ass writers who don't know how to write a story are just using the Star Wars label to get people involved. So yeah, absolutely. Folks are going to sour on that really quickly because it's not going to take anybody with 2 brain cells longer than about 30 seconds to figure out, oh, the only thing this has to offer me is it's dollar store Star Wars.
No, I wouldn't even say it's dollar store. It's like the... it's like a... what's the way to put it? It's like the... It's like taking a can out of a recycling bin. Like, it's not even a dollar store thing. But what I was going to say is it's gotten to the point now where Disney shills have started death threats against people that don't like the show, which is absolutely retarded. I mean, what happened to the day and age where people could be like, oh, I don't like this, without someone being like, oh, I'm going to cut your head off and send it to your family or some shit like that.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I had something that I was thinking about when you said you wanted to do this, that I wanted to slide into this conversation somewhere. I was thinking about doing it towards the end, but since you leaned into it,
yeah, let's get it out of the way.
There, I'm gonna insert this here. The thing is, with that, right, the death threats and the shills and all this, the thing is, there are no sacred cows anymore. That's the real problem. I haven't heard someone use the term culture war in a while. It was very popular a couple of years ago, and then it sort of just faded out of the lexicon.
Well, because I would argue we're still in it.
We absolutely are, and that's why I would say it's a problem, is because we've had to shift, and rightly so, we've had to shift away from the culture war, especially with the current idiot in chief that we have, to real world problems that affect people from being able to just get by. And we had baby formula shortage, we had shipping crisis, we had all kinds of problems. Well, the culture is still important, though, because if you erode the culture away, well, then people are left without a sense of belonging in a lot of ways. The things that you grew up with that were part of your childhood, now you no longer have. And This is the thing. And the real problem with this is it's almost exclusively Disney's fault.
Oh, yeah. Like, they're for sure the... they're the damn. What's the spark that got the fire lit when it comes to that shit?
Yeah, they're the progenitor of this. Disney for a long time was almost ubiquitous with childhoods. I mean, everybody has a favorite Disney movie from when they were a kid. Right?
Yep.
But at some point, Disney became so infected by progressive ideology that they have systematically done everything they can do to destroy every sacred cow. And the problem, again, with that is Disney is a huge company. They have access to all kinds of things. Disney controls not just the Disney licensing, but now they own Star Wars. Disney has a hand in Marvel. Disney owns large sections of news corporations. They have access to huge parts of the culture, and they have gone above and beyond, more so than I would argue just about anyone else, at least in the culture, to erode everything that was sacred in the hope of being able to forcefully replace it with something that's more progressive. Just like that story that came out a couple of days ago where Disney's now being, in fact, Disney was told to get lawyers by a member of Congress because they're going to be sued by the government for the fact that they said they won't hire white men.
Yep. Yep.
Disney, I don't know when it happened, but somebody got a hold of Disney, and they have just become the monster under the bed. I mean, that's the company. I mean, the way that I would phrase it, the best way I could say it is this: 10 years ago, it would not have been uncommon for parents to recommend Disney movies as something for young children.
And Pixar.
Talk
Yep.
about Disney movies in conversation. In 20 years, that won't happen. 10 years from now, that won't happen. You will have a whole swathe of the population in America who will never look back fondly on the Disney experience, past or at this current moment where they're fucking everything up.
Yep. I agree. Well, I would say, and a certain guy I watched named D-Day Cobra, soda's trying to choke me here, would say it started around, I don't know, something that happened in 2016. You know, there's a certain then considered and still now cartoonish guy that kind of got into this office that's kind of important to this country, and then everybody kind of went batshit crazy. But that's a whole other that's a whole other 4-hour stream we could have right there. So, you want to get into the Acolyte?
Yes.
Okay. So I assume you've seen Jeremy John's.
Yes.
I don't know. Is Stuckman even reviewing this?
I don't care.
I don't either. Thank God you said that, because I was going to.
I like Stuckman, but I don't like him as much as Jeremy. Jeremy's a lot faster with reviews, but yes, I've seen all of the ones he's done.
So you got a nutshell of some of the stuff that's going on.
Yes.
Okay. So episode 1. Again, that whole tangent was based off of being like, first episode should be a banger. So just to show you, I got a whole sheet and on the back. So, and this is kind of a test stream, anybody watching. Apparently the first thing we got to figure out is your volume, because you're full blast over here. I don't know what's going on. Okay, so item number 1, episode 1. You know that in Ahsoka, Sabine gets stabbed in the, like, right here, right below the heart, right between the lungs, kind of with a lightsaber. And then the next scene, she's pretty much walking it off. Well, Carrie-Anne Moss, who most people probably know from Matrix, dies to a throwing knife.
Yep.
About that big.
Yep.
And we're talking about a lightsaber through and through. That's about, this fucking big of a blade.
Yep.
And, yeah, she just kind of walks it off. I don't even remember if they have her in a bacta tank at any point to kind of help explain it. Yeah, I don't remember them showing it at all.
They show her in kind of a hospital bed, but she's not in a back tank.
That's right. Yep. Okay. Yeah, I've tuned that shit out as best as I can. And then near the end of this episode, where they're kind of going after Osha. So the twin sisters is Osha and May. So May's the bad one, Osha's the good one. So if you hear me refer to either one, that's what it is. So they follow her to, and anybody who's seen Acolyte knows that I'm going to be jumping around the episode, because we're not doing a play-by-play. We're kind of going off of the jump tidbits that I have on my list. And I made this list from memory, because I was not going back to watch this shit. One of the Jedi, because it's the Master, a Jedi Knight, and an apprentice, Padawan, all land on this ice planet, because this is where her prisoner ship vessel, because she gets caught, crashes, and it's very, very, very bright. Well, one of the Jedi decides to use their lightsaber as a flashlight, and you can see everything. Like it's so bright in there that it was unnecessarily used and unneeded, which is kind of a little gripe for me, because this is back in the this is back when the Jedi didn't ignite their lightsabers first. Supposed to be. This is whenever and those rules are cemented in this 5th episode, which is why I'm bringing this up, because they're in this 5th episode, which, by the way, is the best one so far. I will say. And we'll get into that when we get to the 5th one. But, like, the guy who's the villain, scolds the Jedi Master who's fighting with him because he loses his lightsaber, and the Jedi Master attacks him, and he's like, "Oh, you attacked me without a weapon and with my back turned to you. That's not how Jedi work, or how Jedi function, or the rules you're supposed to follow." So to just ignite your lightsaber to use as a flashlight in a cave that you can clearly see through seems rather stupid. Again, not a big thing, but a nitpick. Then there's this part where they're kind of in a Jedi council meeting, but this is like a lower council. This isn't the council. And this green Jedi, I can't remember her name. Her last name's like Roth or Rope or Roth or something like that. Who, by the way, is the wife to the female showrunner. And that's the reason why she got the job, which is why I bring that up. Talks to the Jedi Master who's gone after May, is going after Osha, that there's no way that Osha's sister could be alive because they watched her die. And then the Jedi Master's like, yeah, I agree. Well, 2 seconds later, whenever they're in the cave and they finally catch up to her, Osha's like, hey, May's still alive. And he's just like, yeah, I believe you. Like, it's literally like the council meeting, seeing them in the ship, them catching her. It's like 2 scenes. Like, there's no development time in between. It's just like, oh, yeah, I believe you. This person that we're going after who's supposedly wanted for murdering a Jedi Master. Like, that's literally all the information they have. They have a basic description. By the way, whenever they decided to go after her, when they found out where she was at, they took the only living witness to meet her. This person who was supposedly powerful enough to kill a Jedi Master without a lightsaber or the Force and a little throwing knife. They took the only living witness. But anyway,
It does kind of happen in real life, by the way.
yeah, but that's usually in a court or like in a lineup. They never just take them and put them in the same room together.
No, but what I'm saying is, like, it's a dumb thing. But there are times where, for example, cops will take a victim for a crime that's just happened, and they'll put him in the back of a cruiser, and they'll roll him right up to where the suspect's just been arrested on the street corner somewhere on a sidewalk, and have him identified.
Yeah, but they're usually in the car, and they're kind of protected that way. He's literally in the room with her. This person that's supposed to be strong enough to kill a Jedi Master.
Again, I'm not defending. I'm just saying, like, it's not too far of a stretch to believe. And I will also say this, having not seen the Acolyte, but watched the reviews, some of them, it does seem like they're trying to play into the Jedi in this as being more cocky, a little bit more, firing from the hip kind of vibe. So it doesn't strike me as out of character then that you would have one of them make a stupid decision, like, let's take the one and only person who can identify this individual we're after with us to the place that we think she's hiding. Like, I mean, that's fucking stupid, but it doesn't surprise me if you're going for the airhead play for the whole damn thing. That's an airhead move, so I mean, it checks out.
Yeah, well, that's the thing too. The Jedi Knight that they introduce you to is extraordinarily cocky. Like, he's beyond, like, the whole prideful thing, like the whole you're not supposed to be emotional or whatever. You don't let your emotions lead you or whatever. Like, he's extraordinarily prideful. Where was I? Oh yeah. So the next point is before the Jedi show up to the ship to pick her up or to take her prisoner or whatever, there's a malfunction that happens outside, and a fire happens on the outside of the ship in space, and it's ongoing, and it's flickering in space. Now, a lot of people are like, oh, well, ships have exploded in Star Wars before. And I was like, yes, but it was a big explosion, and then it kind of dissipated. Because you can't have an ongoing fire that's not being fed oxygen in space. That just doesn't make sense. Huh?
Well, you can't fire... Well, I don't know. like, look, space is a weird thing that people don't understand. Um, Again, I haven't seen the Acolyte, but I don't know if you remember when we played Lightfall last year, and there's a sequence where your character crashes onto one of the enemy ships in space, and they start to travel at faster than light speed, and your character gets like knocked backwards and has to crawl up the hull to get to a door to get inside. Like, they don't know how space works. Like, let's be really like film games. They don't understand it. They think things like friction exist in space.
Well, I would argue that could potentially work if they had like the I don't know if it's in Destiny, but like the ship shields, you know, like Star Wars does have, except they don't have one on this ship, which by the way is Trade Federation ship. And I don't think it would be possible for the fire to be flickering.
No, but if it was plasma based, possibly. Like the sun.
I don't recall it being plasma based.
Sun is plasma based, and like solar flares technically flicker. The sun flickers. If you look at the surface of the sun, it's on fire and it does do its thing.
Yeah, but there's a source that it's attached to.
Well, the source in that case would have been whatever components they were using to power the ship.
Yeah, but it wouldn't flicker.
Oh, it didn't blow up though, did it? The ship didn't blow up. It was a fire on the outside.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just retarded. No. If it blew up, that would be different. Yeah, you would have.
No, that's where I was expecting it to go to, but no. And then an attachment to that. I'm sorry.
I said I was agreeing with you. You would have an initial explosion, and then it would choke out.
Yeah. And then in addition to that, they send out her and I think there's one other guy. And it's like, okay, well, why are you sending them out? What happens in Star Wars when there's a problem with the ship on the outside of the ship and they're in space?
Just about every time I can think of, the captain goes out.
They send out an astromech droid.
Or that.
So you're telling me this is a Trade Federation ship that specializes in the sale of droids, like from their very existence, and they don't have one astromech on this entire ship? They have to send out 2 people?
Were there any astromechs on them before? I don't ever.
Every ship had an astromech in Star Wars.
I don't remember seeing one in. The only one I can think of is like in Clone Wars. There was a bad astromech for a while. The black one. I don't remember what his name.
Well, that's because if you recall, battle droids had space units that were for repair. They were still sending out droids.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. That feels kind of nitpicky to me, bro. I could buy them not having a droid.
The Trade Federation?
Yeah.
I don't know about that one.
I could absolutely buy that. Yeah, for sure. Yep. And let's assume for a second, even if they did have droids to repair it, astromech maybe. I don't know. I know that like the Jedi normally had them. The Republic used them a lot. I can remember through the entirety of Star Wars there being one that was ever in any of the media that was not aligned with the Jedi, the Republic, or the Rebels. One. So I can suspend my disbelief enough to go, okay, there was one, and it's dead. So I can buy that maybe they don't have one of those. And if it was B1s, well, that would just make the situation much worse. So. Wait, hey.
I thought Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Well, I'm not saying the situation would be better, but they did use B1s for that. That was their primary source.
Sure, but I mean, is the Trade Federation even around at this point?
Yes, this is the Trade Federation. And as far as them actually having been around at this point, I'm not 100% certain. But it's one of the little leeways the lead writer has decided to take this.
How far before Phantom Menace is it supposed to be? Was it 34 years before?
No, it's supposed to be like 100.
No, I mean Phantom Menace.
Yeah, I know. This is supposed to be like 132 before the Battle of Yavin. The Clone Wars started in 22, so 10 years before, because that was when Anakin would have been discovered. So it would have been 33. So this is about 100 years before.
Right. So, but the reason I mention that is because the Trade Federation might not be at this point what it was at that point, because you have to keep in mind that part of the reason why the Trade Federation was as prolific as it was come the time of the Phantom Menace was because Sidious was behind the scenes pulling strings.
The Trade Federation was established in 350 before the Battle of Yavin, so they've been around for 200 plus years at this point.
Sure, but that doesn't mean that they're as prolific even at that point then as they were at Phantom, is my point. Yeah, you could be around in the same way that, like, you could start a store that's around and it takes 50 years before it becomes an international chain. It existed before, but you can't look at it the way that it is at the moment and say that that's the way that it's always been. Trade Federation might have been around, but until Sidious got involved and started pulling strings and orchestrating them to be the ones to spur on blockade of Naboo, leading to the discovery of Anakin, leading to the Clone Wars, like, at this point, they might not be what they were when Phantom Menace rolls around.
What I'm reading, that's they were, because they were a Galactic Republic created governing group used to encourage economic development in outlying star systems by establishing free trade zones. So their job was pretty much trade policing. And I highly doubt if they're unsuccessful, they would be around for about 350 years.
Oh, I don't know. We live in one country on one planet with a billion bureaucracies that can't get anything right. So no.
Yeah, but if something fails, we tend not to keep it. Unless it's something in a position of power.
ATF, Biden. I disagree with you entirely. Military intelligence, all that shit. No. You take a bureaucracy and you expand it to be an entire planet, Coruscant. Then you expand it to be even greater than that. No, you're going to end up with all kinds of shit programs and bad policies that exist in perpetuity because it's just too damn difficult to root them out at that point.
Even after 300 years?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, last point, and we're still on episode 1. We still have 4 other ones to get through.
This was going to be a highlights reel, man.
Well, it is, but we keep getting off on tangents, like that one. Ladies and gentlemen, this is one of our first streams. There's no structure to this shit whatsoever. We're kind of winging it right now.
I was thinking you were going to lean more into specific aspects of it, of each episode that bothered you in relation to Star Wars and the culture and things of that.
Oh, shit. Well, if we want to do that, we'll save some time. So, I guess my big thing with episode 1 is it was extremely boring. So that's a nitpick there. And, you know, the whole lore-breaking aspect as far as when it comes to Jedi getting stabbed or people getting stabbed with lightsabers through live, but this is the first time in a Disney property where someone gets stabbed by a tiny little throwing knife and they die. Episode 1. Should I just said that? You think?
It's more along what I was expecting you to go with.
Okay.
You've got specific nitpicks and everything, you know, that's cool, but I was thinking you were looking at broader scale issues. Because again, I haven't seen it. So if you start to get into the nitpick, really all I can do is tangential comparisons to what I do know from Star Wars.
That's true. Okay, so in episode 2, May the bad one is tasked with killing supposedly the 4 Jedi that destroyed her homeworld. Or her home. Not the world, her home. And the Carrie-Anne Moss was one of those Jedi that showed up to her home. Got rid of her, threw in a throwing knife into her heart. Which, by the way, happened after a bar fight that Carrie-Anne Moss's character let go on for way too long when May was hurting civilians and potentially killing them. As a Jedi Master, she let that go on for way too long. So that's kind of lore breaking as well, because as soon as someone got hurt or potentially life was threatened, the Jedi would have intervened. So she's tasked with killing a Jedi without using weapons. Like, she can't use a lightsaber, so she already failed to carry on Moss using a knife. In this one, she's going after a different Jedi Master. She has 4 that she's supposed to go after. And she is unable to get to him because he is meditating. And while he's meditating, he's in a force bubble. And he's been meditating for 10 years straight. Hasn't broken meditation, so the force is kind of like his sustenance. Which, by the way, doesn't work. Also lore breaking. No one can feed themselves off the force, except for, who was the one? It was Plagueis, right? Who lived off fear? Bane, there you go. Thank you. So she's unsuccessful, and then she goes to her alchemist, who gives her a poison. She goes back, knocks on the bubble, and hands him the poison and says, "You can take this because you know what you did." After 10 years of meditation, he gets out of his meditation, says he's sorry, and drinks the poison and kills himself. So she's already failed there. And I guess my biggest gripe with this one besides that is at the end, whenever they're having their little showdown, Master Soul, who's the guy from Squid Games, and then this May chick, they're having this fight, and he just lets her go. All they know of at this point is that this Acolyte, this assassin, has killed 2 Jedi Masters, and he just lets her go. And there's a funny part that happens during that fight, too. So they're on this planet, and they're in this big-ass fucking city, right? So they all have this little powwow whenever they find this Jedi Master dead. And they're having this discussion, and they're like, Jedi Master's like, okay, well, we gotta find her, because she's obvious. By the way, the one who let her go. We gotta find her, because she's obviously very dangerous. And the Jedi Knight, the headstrong one that we were talking about before in episode 1, he's like, okay, we'll find her. And he gets out a pair of I can't remember what they're called in Star Wars. They're not binoculars. They're something else. I can't remember what they're called. But he gets up on top of the building. He's like, there she is. Like, they're in this big-ass city, and you mentioned the whole cop aspect, which was the main ploy for this. It was supposed to be a space detective show with Jedi in, the Star Wars verse, obviously. And none of that's played off in this at all. And then, yeah, they don't even look for her. He just puts on his binoculars, looks down, he's like, oh, there she is. And it's following. And then the fight between the Jedi Master and her is literally like me to the door. And he's just standing there with the binoculars on his face, watching them fight. Of course, it's angled down, so he's just standing there like this. I thought that was funny. It's like, first of all, take off the binoculars. Second of all, he's solo fighting a chick who supposedly killed 2 Jedi Master. He's a Jedi Master, and you're standing up there literally with your dick in your hands. It's like, get down there and help him. And, yeah, they just let her go. Then...
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, because I don't know what you're going to get into next, but it seems like, aside from all of the other woke bullshit that I'm sure we're about to get into here, it seems like...
Yep, because we're about to get to episode 3.
It seems like this was partially done to try to showcase the Jedi as being...
evil.
I don't even think it was evil. I think it's inept.
Well, the whole thing, some people have said that the Jedi are being portrayed as in here is Child Protective Services, which is what we'll get into in the next one. But bad at what they do, Child Protective Services, and basically just evil.
Well, I don't know about evil, because from the review, again, going just off Jeremy's reviews, because it's the only ones I could stomach to listen to, mostly because he was drinking when he reviewed them, and it was funny.
Wish I was.
He didn't show anything or say anything that made them out to seem evil. It seems more like the show is trying to make them seem inept, like they don't know what they're doing. They're sort of just bumbling through doing whatever, and because they're Jedi, they can get away with it. You can't really do anything to them or about them because at the end of the day, the so-called galactic credit ends with them. Like that's the buck stops there. Um, which I mean, a hot take moment. I actually don't think would be a bad story. I think it's done poorly.
Yeah, I was just about to say, if it's done right, yes.
I think that you absolutely could tell a story in the Star Wars universe where you would showcase the Jedi as being wildly inept or cruel, cold, calculating. You could even go evil. I could see a version of Star Wars where you could tell a story about, yeah, we've seen the Jedi from the perspective of the Jedi fighting Sith, fighting to preserve their republic, and then fighting to the up and coming Jedi in the original trilogy with Luke trying to overthrow the Empire. But like, what else do they do? Well, we know that the Jedi went out and searched for children. We do know that they would identify force sensitive children. So I absolutely see where you could tell a story. And I remember this was something that was mentioned in the conversation with the Acolyte was there's like a dispute that occurs between the characters on whether or not the Jedi abducted this girl, as I believe initially was the assumption, and then killed all of her family. And of course, that ends up being not the case. The other one, the evil one, actually ends up setting a fire somehow that ends up burning stone, but we'll get to that in a minute. And that
Oh, we're
there's
getting into that. Trust me, we're getting into that
so
bullshit.
again, like I could see where you could take a story in Star Wars and you could write it to where the Jedi are just bumbling and inept because they're at this point they're the only ones who are known to be able to use the Force. They have lightsabers. They have the backing of the entire Galactic Republic at this point. They they come and go as they please. You could absolutely tell a story of that. Hey, there's these people that have like this unique power that we only know of that they have. They go out and find other people that also have this power when they're very young, take them and absorb them into their structure, and you can't get into that. They have to let you in. You could tell a story with that. The Acolyte just seems to be doing it really poorly.
Oh, they are. Trust me.
I mean, you know.
Well,
Again,
it doesn't help either that the lead actress has the facial expression range of a brick house. See, this is the thing with little tangent here with May, Osha, because of course they're played by the same actress who's playing twins, and then you had with what's her fucking name, Reva from the Obi-Wan show. Brick wall, no facial expression whatsoever. They're happy, they're scared, they're anxious, they're angry. All of the facial expressions are the exact fucking same. Like whenever Reva's, if we want to look at Obi-Wan for a second, and again, you didn't watch. Well, you probably saw the couple of scenes with Darth Vader and Reva, right? If you're Reva and you're in a room with Darth fucking Vader and you pissed him off, you're gonna be scared. You're gonna be terrified. Everybody was afraid of Darth Vader. Even the Emperor was a little bit. That's why the Emperor kept Darth Vader in a suit that caused him pain all the time.
Yes. Well, initially, and then Vader opted to keep that suit.
Yeah, because it helped him get more powerful. But the point is that he was the most feared person in all of Star Wars and the galaxy at that point.
Sure.
So she's standing there and she just failed to find the master who trained him, who he blames for being in his current condition and the death of his wife. Literally the only reason he turned to the dark side. And she's standing there and she can't act just a little bit afraid.
Well, okay, all right. God. All right, controversial hot take moment here. That doesn't bother me at all.
What?
And I'll explain.
Oh, please do.
Yes, you are correct that Darth Vader at one feared person in the galaxy. Because the Emperor was sort of just this ethereal presence that existed and pulled strings, but didn't really get his hands dirty. Vader was his attack dog.
Mm-hmm.
However, I do see why, if you were a servant to the right hand of the devil, and you failed at a task, I do see where it might be smart to not show fear.
To an extent, but at some point, it would be, I would think, an involuntary kind of expression. Because at this point, if I recall correctly, she failed him like, I think this was fourth time? And this isn't just like she didn't go and attack a settlement. This was the Jedi Master who trained Vader and killed, in his mind, killed his wife. This is a whole different set of circumstances.
Sure. And again, I understand where you're coming from there, but I also understand why, having been trained as an Inquisitor, why you wouldn't want to show fear to Darth Vader, because he kind of preys on that. He kind of like enjoys that it's like a sadist, like a sadistic psychopath when they're torturing somebody, or they strangle someone just to the point where they almost pass out, and then they let up so they come back again. They get off on seeing that fear, that panic. So I see where, having been trained by this person, you wouldn't really do that. Because, yeah, you might be scared shitless, but that's the last thing you're going to let him see, because that might be the final straw where he's like, oh, okay, well, now you're broken. Now you're afraid. Well, you're useless to me at this point. And honestly, too, with the Vader and Reva thing, the thing about it is, Disney likes to pretend for some reason. I think they try to make characters seem to be dumber than they are. I genuinely don't think Darth Vader thought she was going to pull that off. If anything, it might have been a test for her intentionally to fail, just to see how she would react when she did fail. Vader, I don't think, genuinely thought she was going to be able to get Obi-Wan. That's a pretty tall order for an Inquisitor, especially because most of the time, didn't they, like, they might have killed some Jedi, but they didn't kill fucking Obi-Wan. Like, they didn't kill Yoda. They didn't go out and kill Mace Windu.
No, because according to the
Padawans that survived, but
Inquisitors didn't exist until Filoni got involved. Inquisitors, if I recall correct, I'm going to have to look this up so I don't get shot down in the chat or later on. But I'm almost 100% sure that Inquisitors are created by Filoni. I don't recall George Lucas. Yeah, Dave Filoni introduced the idea of Inquisitors in the first episode of Star Wars Rebels. Yeah, okay.
Because in Legends, a lot of the old Legends books, Vader's the one who hunted them down.
Vader was the only one hunting them down. That's the only one that the Emperor trusted to go actually kill them.
Vader did, to the credit of Legends and George Lucas, because George Lucas, there were two characters that primarily hunted Jedi when the Empire got established. That was Vader and Boba Fett.
Mm-hmm.
Because if Vader couldn't catch him, he would send Boba Fett after him. They actually were friends in a kind of a weird way.
No. Boba Fett was one. They weren't necessarily friends. Boba Fett was one of the few people that Vader had a little respect for.
That's about as close to friendship.
That's about as close as Darth Vader's going to get, yeah.
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 Because the one friend Darth Vader did have canonically, he betrayed later, was a stormtrooper, like way later on. It's in a comic book or something. But anyway.
There was a woman, too, if I recall correctly.
Going back to, no, it was a dude. But going back to what...
No. I'm not saying the stormtrooper was a woman. I'm saying there was a woman that he betrayed because she was almost another love interest for Vader. But then I think he ended up killing her. But that was a comic book too, and I didn't read the comic books. I read the novels.
But anyway, I see where she wouldn't have been afraid. But with the Acolyte, it's like they're taking Jedi and they're wanting to tell a story about them that we haven't seen, and they're doing it very poorly, and it's pissing people off.
Well, my whole thing is it's the writing.
Sure.
So one of the things too is... Oh, go ahead.
The narrative isn't as important as the message. I mean, it's peak woke, right? They're attacking a power structure that that exists, and they're saying this power structure is inept and abusive. That's the whole thing, right? Because when you think of Star Wars in the Republic era specifically, you think about primarily Jedi. In a large way, the Jedi are the police, right?
Yeah.
So in the show, you write them to be inept and cruel. Why do you do that? Well, because you're a leftist carpet muncher who thinks that the police are bad. So congratulations, you write it into the show. It doesn't have to make sense so long as you get your narrative out there. That's all the message. That's all they're trying to do.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because one of the first introductions to the Jedi in this is whenever in the first episode, backtracking a little bit, in the first episode, before they even had concrete proof that Osha was potentially the one who had killed Carrie-Anne Moss's Jedi Master character, the Leslye Headland's wife, who's playing I don't know if she's supposed to be a Jedi Master. She's like almost to the like a council member or whatever, but she's like the one in charge because, obviously.
Yeah.
And without any evidence other and usually there has to be a good amount of evidence even in real life for someone to be convicted. Eyewitness, hardcore evidence, like if someone was shot, the gun, the bullet, a fingerprint on the bullet. There's a laundry list of stuff that has to be there before or supposed to be a laundry list of stuff before someone gets convicted. They have like one witness who didn't even really get to see her, which, by the way, later pinpoints and is like, yep, that's definitely her, even though she had a mask and a hood on. But as soon as the guy from Squid Games was like, I think I know who this is, she's like, okay, well, we're going to kill her. Don't bring her back. Don't bring her in alive. It's going to look bad for us. Kill her. Literally, that's what she said. That's our introduction to the Jedi in the show. Comments before we jump to episode 3?
Nope.
Episode 3, the fun one. This is the one where they decided to compare the twins to Anakin. This is where the Immaculate Conception happens of the twins. So we have Black Human Jedi, or Black Human Witch, and then we have White Zabrak Witch, both female, obviously, witch, who and create this life, and they're like, they use the Force to do it, which, by the way, that would mean the Force is male, not female, Kathleen Kennedy, because you kind of need something in order to create life. But they even come out and because it's in a heated argument. This is after the Jedi have landed on their planet, and the Jedi have come into their well, we'll call it a temple or a palace or whatever, and because they found out that the kids are there, and they're like, okay, well, you can't deny the Jedi Temple or the Jedi Order the right to train potentially Force-sensitive kids. So, yeah. So they have this argument between both of them, and the Zabrak was like, you can't let them because I carried them. The black one's like, well, yes, I can because I created them. So we have this whole immaculate conception of twins that we've only ever seen before with Anakin Skywalker. And then we have this, I don't know if you saw it, because I don't remember if Jeremy had it in this video, but they're at this ascension thing, kind of like a coming of age type thing, but in their coven. And they do this really, really creepy, stupid, cringy song, the power of one, the power of two, the power of many, and they literally all do the weave, and then when they say many, they like do this whole shit. Like, I shit you not, that's literally what they do. And before that, just a little tidbit I want to throw in that a lot of people aren't talking about whenever it comes to this show is there's this little, I don't know if it's supposed to be a childhood poem or song that the parents taught them. But it's happened twice. Once when they're older, when they meet, and then in this one, whenever they're supposed to be kids. Twins, by the way, who look nothing alike as kids. They have this really weird lesbian song between the two kids. That's really weird. Like, if you haven't seen that clip, it's really like it's not that sisterly kind of thing that sisters would come up with. It's damn near a lesbian thing. I shit you not. But I want to bring that up because nobody's talking about it, which I think is really weird. I had it on the list. Where the fuck? Oh, and the Jedi who land on the planet are stalking the kids. So the Jedi land on the planet. They find the witch coven, and the kids are out in the field, and they're like playing near this really big tree. And there's Jedi hiding behind trees watching the kids play. So they're also kind of like making them like stalkerish, like creepers. And then they show up inside the temple, and then they're like, Carrie Ann Moss, because this is a flashback, goes up to one of the lead witches. She's like, "Oh, we had no clue you were here." And then 2 seconds after that, they're like, "We came here because we heard there was Force-sensitive kids here." It's like, what? It just doesn't make sense. So this is the episode really that the main focus that pissed off a lot of people was the whole Immaculate Conception thing. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, it was an interesting concept when it was brought up in Phantom Menace, because it was initially in Phantom Menace, really, actually, it was kind of for a little while there. They were kind of doing this was it, wasn't it kind of thing for a minute there. It didn't really seem like maybe they were all on board with the fact that that was actually what happened, and then they come around to believing it at some point, mostly because Anakin's father never shows up. It's usually pretty good.
Well, that and the fact that Anakin's supposed to be the chosen one, but okay.
And well, that's what I was about to say. It's like, and it worked for them because Anakin was the one who was supposed to. He was at that point. They thought he was the chosen one, and he kind of ended up being, in a weird way, if you think about it, he kind of ended up being the David to Luke's Jesus, in a lot of ways. Now, again, this feels a lot like Disney just trying to take the piss out of something that people appreciate and care about, which is just Star Wars. Like, all they're doing is they're deconstructing Star Wars, as much of it as they can, because they can. You know, Kathleen Kennedy. Kathleen Kennedy's a fucking moron. The show writers are fucking morons. These, you know, like, look, I don't care. I don't care if you're gay. I don't care if you're lesbian. I don't care if you're trans. I don't care if you want to tell a story about characters that have those particular qualities or whatever. I don't give a shit. Here's the thing, though. You do not get to take established cultural cornerstones and then warp them to fit your particular viewpoint of reality and expect people to be on board.
Well, my thing with that,
what they did there.
Yeah, my thing with that is you can, like, not an established character, because these are all supposed to be new characters. These are supposed to be characters we know, which is another reason why Ki-Adi-Mundi showing up was weird, other than them adding like 70 years to his life. But anyway, cause I got a knot in my fucking beard. There we go. They did it with Fallout. In Fallout, there is a trans character. In Fallout, the character only shows up like twice. And it's in the Brotherhood of Steel, who, by the way, are religious zealots. In the Brotherhood of Steel, they try to take all the old world technology, so the people of this time can't have that old world technology, with the idea that we won't get back to, or we won't cause this kind of, basically people can't be trusted with old school technology. And the character showed up twice. And the only way you knew it was, I'll get to it. The only way you knew it was a trans character was appearance. It was the person looked female with a little bit of a mustache and was referred to as they. But if we're looking at the time span of the entire show, whenever this person was there, 5 minutes, 6 minutes. So you can, to an extent, as long as that's not the sole focus of that person or character being there.
Sure, and that's what I was about to say. Is I don't have a problem with like, and this is another little tangent here, but it's relevant to this conversation. Is you see there for a long time the term snowflake was used to describe people on the left who would lose their shit all the time, right? The right has developed snowflakes, and the snowflakes on the right, the people that I don't have patience or time for, are the people who like they go to watch a movie or they go to see a show, and there's a gay character or a lesbian character or a trans character, and they go, nope, immediately woke, I'm done. And they just start reading off the top of their head. Here's the thing. Those characters being in a show, being in a movie, don't make the show woke.
Agreed.
Unless that is the only defining component of the character.
Yep.
Right? And it's just, there are not a lot of movies or shows that understand that can take a character and make the character interesting.
No. See, that's where I'm going to argue with you right there. Even before you finish that point, they are purposely making them that way.
Oh, I agree with you. Because again, but that's sort of the point that I'm trying to get to. Is
oh, okay.
I agree with you completely. They're intentionally making these characters have that, what hole they like to stick it in, or whether or not they like to play sharpen my scissors or whatever, right? They're making those the defining characteristics of characters in movies and in TV shows because they're trying to push that narrative that this is normal. This is like brave and this is great or whatever. And it's like, no, it's not. It's just what it is. There are look, you want to see people are born gay? Okay, fine. I can get on board with that. Fine. You want to have a gay character? Cool, fine. Can you make them interesting? Can you give them something that makes them interesting? And so that's why you're invested in this character? Like, one character they did a really good job with that for was, I can't remember the dude's name. Dude from The Walking Dead, Aaron.
Well, I was thinking, Stannis from Game of Thrones, the prince who got killed by the demon spirit thing from the witch.
Oh, Stannis' brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, yeah.
Because his character was interesting.
Again, you take a character, you make the character interesting, you give us some reason to care about them, and if they happen to be gay or lesbian or whatever, fine. Okay, yeah, you're going to lose people on the right who are just going to immediately their two brain cells are going to shut off and they're going to start reading and running up and down the block and making YouTube videos about shit.
Michael Knowles.
Oh, I can get on board with that. That's fine. That's fine. But that's the thing about it is like, and again, tying this all back to the Acolyte, the reason why they're doing what they're doing is because they're intentionally trying to target Star Wars. Because Star Wars is, number one, it's overwhelmingly popular with men.
Oh, yeah.
Overwhelmingly, right? It's embedded in the culture. Star Wars is probably one of the most globally known cultural phenomenons that's ever existed, ever. Like, if you were to go probably into most countries in the world, outside of, like, maybe some tribe in the Amazon that has no idea what's going on in the modern world, and you were to just... most people are going to know what that is.
Yeah. Yep.
Even if they don't know the character's name. That's all this show is. It's them intentionally just trying to sabotage Star Wars. They did it with Jedi, trying to make Jedi looking at, and then they take the character of Anakin Skywalker, who, and actually the Anakin case is really interesting because a lot of people initially weren't on board with Anakin. And it took a little while for people to warm up to Anakin being a thing. Remember, they didn't, like, the portrayal, the young actor that played him, I think his name was, James Lloyd or whatever? I can't remember what his name is.
I think it was Zach Lloyd. I know it was Lloyd. I can't remember the first name. So
he didn't. I don't think he worked after that. Maybe one or two projects.
I think he did. He did Jingle All the Way, and then as far as I know, he started getting like death threats or some shit like that.
Yeah, he started to get. I mean, he's just a kid, but he started to get shit for that. It took people a while to warm up to the idea of Anakin, and now it's odd that Disney has picked Anakin specifically to go after, but it's not.
Well, because Anakin was the bread and butter of Star Wars after the prequels were made.
I think it's even more simple than that. If you boil it back down, if you boil the motive, Okay, what
Okay.
would be the motive for why they would do this?
He's a man.
And you look at if you look at what they're trying to push, right? All female coven of these ladies, right? These, we're having some happy fun times. And then you have the two characters. You have the girl who's good, you have the girl who's bad, okay? What's the one defining characteristic amongst all of them? Well, they're women,
Right.
right? Okay? One of the two mothers is black, okay? Well, Anakin was white, a man, and straight. It's that simple.
Yeah.
It's really that simple, and it makes even more sense too when you think about it, because it's also an attack on religion, right? The whole concept of immaculate conception is inherently religious.
Yep.
And then that fits right in with the attack on straight white men. Also, it's not just you're attacking men. It's not just you're attacking something that men hold dear with Star Wars. You're attacking religion. They're knocking a lot of their leftist progressive rainbow colored pins over with that one particular push. And again, they had to know there was going to be backlash to this, but they don't care. Because telling a good story is not as important as forcing your vomit down other people's throats and then yelling at them when they don't like it.
To go back to something you mentioned, according to a 2019 survey, 32% of male respondents in the United States identified as avid Star Wars fans, compared to 18% female.
Yeah, and that's just avid, right? That's probably like the ride or die people.
Yep.
But if you were to overwhelmingly look at is Star Wars more popular amongst men or women, and take out any kind of characterizations at all, any categories, are you an extreme fan, somewhat fan, kind of a fan, whatever, and you were just to do it amongst the two genders, fan, yes or no, overwhelmingly, you would probably have a 2-to-1, 3-to-1 margin on men. Overwhelmingly. Well,
yep.
There's your target that you got to attack for some reason.
Well, because I think it was right before or right after. I think it was right before the Last Jedi. Kathleen Kennedy came out and said the Force is female now.
Yeah, I remember.
And that was like her her mantra and sales pitch for Star Wars, and still is.
Yep.
Shall we hop to episode 4, or do you have any other comments?
Nope.
So let me see. Okay, so episode 4 is where they still keep the stuff comparing the twins to Anakin. So they land on this planet, this Force planet. By the way, they introduced Jedi Wookiee, which has been introduced before in the novels. When they're fighting the Yuuzhan Vong, the children of Luke Skywalker and Mara Jade, Han Solo and Leia, when Luke starts his Jedi Temple, have a Jedi Wookiee that's with them in those novels. So it's not a new concept, but it's new for film, I guess, or TV or whatever. But going back to the comparisons, is there's the scene between the guy from Squid Games, Master Soul, by the way, Korean, and his last name is Soul. And then you got Osha, and they're having this whole conversation back and forth. She's like, well, my sister's done this. She needs to be reprimanded. And he's like, well, she can be saved. And she's like, well, no, she can't. He's like, but she's your family. So they do this whole like Luke and Darth Vader thing where it's like if Luke didn't come to the idea of saving his father by himself, like he had somebody having that conversation with him, that's what this would be. This back and forth of, but she's family, you should want to save her. And she's like, no, she's killed people, she's done evil. She needs arrested, she needs punished, all that shit. Let's see. There's a scene too where May is with her alchemist and they're going to kill this Wookiee Jedi, and they stop for a second because she's like, I need a break, it's hotter and it's farther than you said it was going to be. And the alchemist is like, yeah, okay. So he goes off to look for like water, I think it was, or he just went to go scout ahead. And then she screams and he comes running back, gets snared, and he's hanging up in the air, and she comes out and she's like, oh, I'm going to turn myself into the Jedi. She's just like, yeah, I supposedly killed 2 of their masters. I never should have left my sister, who she blames, by the way, for the death of her family.
Yep, I remember that.
She's like, my loyalty should be to my sister, so I'm gonna go turn myself into the Jedi, which is absolutely bonkers, because that's what Disney does as well. They always have and I can think of two other examples. One of them was Riva, where they have this woman of color, who starts off as a villain, and then we can't have bad black people in shows, so then they change it to make her a good guy, or they attempt to change it to make her a good guy. They did that with Riva. Riva was an Inquisitor who was supposed to hunt down Obi-Wan, and then later she found out about Luke, never told Darth Vader, and that's when she decided she was going to try to be a good person, because she didn't want to kill a kid, which God only knows what she did as an Inquisitor. Her introduction was chopping off the arm of one of the people at the bar, the cantina, whenever they're looking for Obi-Wan. And then the other one is, I'm skimping on her name right now. Star Wars Battlefront 2. What's her name? Yeah. The whole plot, the whole selling point that they had before that game released was, now we're going to tell you, and we're going to let you play a story from the dark side, the Empire. We're going to have you play through as a character from that perspective. What? A third of the way into the campaign, the short-ass campaign that we got, and she's just like, does a whole 180 and then just starts working for the rebellion. And they start that's a consistent thing in Star Wars when it comes to female villains, especially females that are colored, because they can't have a bad one.
Mm-hmm.
Anything to say on that before I continue?
No, but I mean, again, it's like, I don't know why they're so over the top with this. Because the thing is if you were smart about trying to sell people bullshit, you would coat it in sugar first.
Oh yeah.
Right? So the easiest way that you could do that is you would have one consistent bad female character, one consistent bad black character, just one. That way your critics can't go, well, they're playing a race card, because you notice all the bad guys are white. Right?
Well, that's the thing too. Is if you look at each one of these, you had Iden, who was she was a Hispanic woman, right? If I recall correctly. And then you had the white Imperial officer that was on her team. You had Riva, and then you had Darth Vader. In this, you have May, and then you have Soul. It happens all the time.
Well, the one that I was thinking of right off the bat was Rey.
And Kylo Ren?
Jeremy, I rewatched Jeremy's review of spoiler review of Rise of Skywalker, and he mentions, I don't know when the last time you saw that video was, but he mentions
Whenever it came out.
Where he was thinking about it, and he was like, he says, you know what I realized is that Rey's the only character who never took any damage. And he's like, at first I thought she was just the only character who didn't lose an arm, but like, no, she never takes any damage at all in those movies. There's the one moment where Snoke is holding her above the ground and she screams, and that's it. And again, that's the thing about it. It's like, okay, I get it, Disney, I get it. You're wanting to say people that look like me and have my particular genitalia are bad people. Okay, cool. Guess what? I don't mind being the villain if you want me to be the villain. But for fuck's sake, if you're wanting to make a chick the hero, heroes get hurt. That's part of what makes a good hero.
They also have character arcs.
At some point, well, usually that's how they end up getting hurt. They come
Exactly.
up with some kind of challenge that they can't beat, they lose, and then they have character development, and they end up overcoming that challenge later. If you're trying to make strong female characters the heroes of your story, first of all, that's fucking stupid, but fine, whatever. At least make them realistic.
Yeah, well, that's like, and it's not, and that's the spin they like, right? whenever we have something like this that's female centered, like the Ghostbusters 2016 movie that came out. Watched that while drinking about a month-ish, maybe longer ago. And they came out and they said, "Oh, you don't like this movie because it's about women." And it's like, no, it's poorly written. There are so many female protagonists, main protagonists, that people love. Laura Croft, Sarah Connor,
Yep.
Leia. If we're gonna stick with Star Wars, no one had a problem with Leia, and she was everything they want. She was a strong, independent woman who bossed men around.
Yep.
That scene from
But see, here's the
Empire
problem.
Strikes Back at the beginning, whenever she's instructing the snowspeeder pilots about the attack that's going to come and what she needs them to do. That's all men around her, and she's the one giving orders.
Fuck Mon Mothma.
Thank you. That was the next one on my list.
Mon Mothma, yeah, like.
And then
she
Padme.
was- At one point, she was the one who was, in fact, I believe at the time of, what was that? Return of the Jedi. Wasn't she the one who was in charge of like everything?
No, well, from the beginning she was. If you read the novels from the beginning, she was the one that was rocking the rebellion boat.
Yeah, she was like the Grand Admiral or whatever. Of like, she commanded their navy. She was the one who was responsible for planning that attack. You know, and coordinating it at least. You know, like. But that's the thing about it is like they don't understand. They've lost the finesse of being able to blend characteristics of a woman that make a woman unique and strong.
Yep.
With that same woman being able to be an action hero. And there is a blend. There is a way that you can do both of those things, and you can do both of those things very well. Again, Sarah Connor, she's a mom. That's her primary. That's the thing about it is, and the contrast, the interesting point with that is, those strong female characters from the past, the protagonists or secondary protagonists from these stories, the thing that makes them strong is the characters are rooted in traits or characteristics that are uniquely female.
Mm-hmm.
Or more likely to be expressed by females. They're nurturing, or they're systematic, or they're careful, or they plan, or they're, you know, like Sarah Connor's case, she's a mom. So all of the things that she does is to protect her child when she finds out that she's going to be a mom, right? Like, they lean into that unique aspect of what it is to be a woman, chiefly to be a woman, right?
Yep.
And they build the character, the action components of the character off that basis. And they and especially like with Sarah Connor, they lean more so into the fact that like a woman can't really go toe to toe with a man, and in Terminator can't go toe to toe with Terminator. So she plays to her strengths more. Like they've lost that particular component of it. They don't understand that you can have both of these things. But in order to do that, you have to lean into something that's unique to women. And why won't they do that? Well, because again, what's another chief component of the progressive ideology of the modern world? That men and women are interchangeable. So you can't tell a story where a woman's primary motivation or the thing that drives her to be the action hero that you want is something unique to women.
Right.
Because the moment that you do that, you've admitted that your presupposition is inherently false.
Mm-hmm.
And they can't do that.
Yep. Well, it's like, and I'll have you name, if you want to go ahead and name one after this, the movie that stands out, or the story that stands out the most for me, as far as growing up with the whole female protagonist, is that Amy Madigan movie. I can't think of the name of it right now, but her husband's in the military. They're both in the military. Her husband's in the military and finds that part in the helicopter that's fucked up. And she gets hunted throughout the whole movie by the government because they're trying to keep that as a cover up. I can't remember the name of the movie right now.
I know what you're talking about, though. Yeah.
But yeah, like
It's
that.
It's a rotator.
It's the rotator disc or cup or whatever thing. Yeah.
Yep.
Like that movie, and that was so good. And because it was done well.
Yep.
I had another one come to mind, but it completely fucking lost. So, do you have one, or do you want to hop on to the next episode?
I mean, I don't know. Like, I can think of one of the best movies that I've ever seen that had a female protagonist in it is, and it's not an action movie, but is High Crimes.
Yep.
I love High Crimes. And again, it leans a lot into her being the parts of her that make her a woman. She loves her husband. She's willing to do anything to protect him. She's so invested in him that she can't see that he's a monster.
Oh, no one could protect her. That's the movie I was thinking of.
Until he finally reveals that he is a monster.
Yeah.
Like,
well, it's like no one could protect her. That's the woman who gets and because you can't say that word on YouTube. And then she has to deal with it herself. Like, her husband's there to try to help her through it, but she's got to deal with it on her own.
Yep. In fact, there's a part in that movie where he says that where she's upset because they won't.
Yeah.
They haven't had sex since the rape, and he. Okay, fine. They haven't engaged in activities that generally lead to the creation of baby.
No, that first part you were fine with. It was the R word that followed.
Whatever. Okay, fine.
Say grape.
Aggressively known biblically.
Okay. Jeez.
She thinks that because of that, that's why they haven't had sex. And then he's like, no, that's not the point. He's like, the whole reason is because I feel bad. I feel guilty that I wasn't here to keep you safe from this happening. And she tells him, she's like, you can't. No one can. I have to.
Yep.
I have to keep me safe. And
Yep.
it's like, thank you. Thank you. Yes, exactly. That's the whole, yes, yeah, right there. Perfect. Golden.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not just a good message for young women. Hey, you need to keep you safe. Primarily, you're responsible for your own safety. That translates to humans in general.
Yep. I agree. Okay, so before we hop on to the tonight's episode, and we've already been going for like an hour and a half. There's one more tidbit that pissed a lot of people off with episode 4, and I kind of touched on it, and that was the appearance of Ki-Adi-Mundi. So Ki-Adi-Mundi, let me see if I recall my Star Wars knowledge real quick, was born in 92 before the Battle of Yavin. This show takes place in 132 BBY, and then he fought in the Clone Wars, which took place in 22 BBY to 19 BBY. And his species, according to George Lucas, only lived for about 50 to 60 years. Basically the human span of a human. Or the lifespan of a human, that's what I meant to say. So they tacked on about 40 years, but there'd have to be an additional, I would assume, 20-ish years, because he's not a Padawan. He's already a master. He's not on the council, but he's a master in this. And if I recall correctly, that should be about 10 to 15 years of Jedi training. So, the only reason why Anakin shot up as fast as he did is because he was the chosen one, the one who was supposed to do balance and all that. How long was he training for?
No. The reason Anakin got to where he was because Sidious was pulling strings the entire time.
Oh, that's, well, okay, that was part of it, yes.
No, that was all of it. Sidious orchestrated the whole thing. He was the one he specifically orchestrated events so that Anakin would end up exactly where he was. It had nothing to do with Anakin at all. In fact, if you remember, in Revenge of the Sith, the only reason Anakin even got to the council was because Sidious threatened the Jedi with not allowing them to be involved in war decisions unless they allowed Anakin on the council.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
My thing with the Ki-Adi-Mundi episode, too, though, is weren't people also upset about the fact that in The Phantom Menace, when Qui-Gon goes to the Jedi Council and says, hey, I encountered what I believe to be a Sith Lord. He had a red lightsaber. He used the Force. And Ki-Adi-Mundi specifically states that the Sith have been extinct for millennia.
Yep. That was the next part I was going to get to.
Okay, cool. You want to take a character and you want to give them like an ungodly lifespan for the stupid of it because you couldn't be bothered to do the research. Okay, that's dumb and that's going to piss a lot of people off too. But like, the Sith here, so it's not enough for you to target the Jedi and make the Jedi look stupid, but you also have to go after, like, the baddies too. Like you couldn't just leave us with that. You couldn't just fuck with the Jedi and leave the Sith alone. At least we still had the cool bad guys that we could all root for. Come, I mean, let's be real. We all root for the bad guys. Come on, like just be honest here. Darth Vader is infinitely cooler than Luke Skywalker. I'm sorry, I said it.
No, you're right. You're right.
Darth Maul is infinitely cooler than literally any of the other characters that I can think of in Star Wars outside of other Sith.
Grievous is better.
So, all right. Well, who?
Grievous.
Fuck out of here.
I am unapologetically a Grievous fan.
Grievous is lame. Anyway, but like, come on now. You couldn't like explain this to me. Like, why? This is the thing about it. Is like it's either. That to me just screams incompetence. Like you couldn't have been bothered to do the research to figure out how long this particular species lives in this established universe that's been established for. If we go to Phantom Menace, that was what 99.
Yeah.
When that came out. Okay, so it's been around a while. There's been lots of Star Wars encyclopedias and stories and all kinds of things. Like there's no reason why Wikipedia exists. Like there's no reason why you can't do just like 5 minutes of research and figure out how old these characters tend to be, but then
hold on.
But then you're gonna make it so that this character, the same character in this series, does he encounter this Sith person just pretending to be a Sith or
no,
whatever? Like, do they? Okay, so but like, I'm assuming he's told about it though, right? Like,
yes, they have. If I recall correctly, they're watching a hologram of May and her fighting.
Right. That's right. I've seen the picture of him, the still of him standing next to the hologram table. Okay.
Yeah.
So like, all right. So come on now. You're gonna tell me that not only are you making it so that this guy is exponentially older than he's supposed to be, but this person who's watching this happen can see this in front of him. What? Just conveniently forgets 30 years in the future, however long in the future this. Like, come on now. Get the fuck out of here. You're just being late.
Uh oh. Shit. Fuck, we lost him.
I can still see you. We'll just have to do the rest of this over the phone, I think.
I was gonna say, yeah, you're gone. I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, you dipped out for just a hot second, and then you popped back up.
Okay, hold on. I think I figured it out. Okay, I got you back.
Okay, do you still?
Yep, I got you.
Can you hear me though?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna have to move out in the living room here in about 40 minutes if we keep going. I have about an hour left of battery before this thing dies.
Oh, we'll be done here pretty soon. What was I gonna say?
You had something to say about Eddie Mundy.
Well, they just came out and made him a liar. And potentially a traitor to the Jedi, because if a Jedi had information about Sith activity and didn't tell the Jedi Masters about it,
Well,
I would argue that's treason.
The thing is too, like, okay, I could see where in a better written show, right, where it wasn't Kiadi Mundi, or it was set when actually he was alive. I could see a scenario where you could have it be where he sees a holocron of someone who's wielding a lightsaber and doesn't automatically assume it's a Sith.
Well, in defense, for full consistency, because I don't want to segue through shit, because that's what they do, and I don't want us to be like, you know, the shills. She's not using a lightsaber in the hologram.
Okay. So
However, the conversation is who trained her. And the only person they can come up with that would potentially have trained her is they mention a different sect that is using the Force outside of the Jedi Order.
Oh well, then I don't see what all the hullabaloo is about then. The Jedi weren't the only one who used the Force.
No, at the time in this show, yes. The way that they have it set up is yes. The Jedi are the only ones using the Force.
Okay, but if the show is canon,
Fuck. There you go again. Fucking Streamlabs, man.
what's going on?
I have no clue. Like, my hands are literally not even on the fucking keyboard.
Okay, but anyway, as I was saying before, I was so rudely interrupted by technology.
Yeah, I'm gonna prove it.
If the show is supposed to be canon, which I'm assuming it is, because Disney sucks.
Canon to Disney Star Wars, not a normal Star Wars. Because remember, they took the novels and the graphic novels out. So this is Disney's Star Wars, not George Lucas's Star Wars.
Okay. So, but even with that, then, if it's canon, then no, the Jedi aren't the only ones who use the Force. Need I remind you of the Night Sisters?
That was magic, not the Force.
It was similar enough.
Well, that's the
Close
thing
enough
too,
that
is they
were
call
able to give the Jedi enough of a scare. The Jedi never went there.
the Force in this the thread, and one of the witches actually takes the Force and pulls it like a string. So
See, that bothered people. That actually doesn't bother me that much though, because if you were to think about the Force as being something that's across the entire galaxy, the entire universe, right? The Jedi are at their core a religion, right? Vader references the religion a lot.
right.
So I mean, the Jedi are essentially warrior monks, really. So I am completely on board with the idea that a different culture would look at the exact same thing and call it something else. Wouldn't call it what you call it. They would call it, and again, credit where credit is due, they did pick a decent name for it. They didn't call it like the Weave or whatever. They called it.
That's not
Thread,
that much
right?
far of a stretch, though.
Well, why would you call it Thread though? Well, credit where credit is due. What does Yoda say? I believe it's Yoda, who talks about how the Force binds all living things.
Oh, that was
What do you
Qui-Gon.
use to bind- What do you use to bind things? A rope, or a string, or thread. So, okay, all right, I can get on board with the fact this culture would name it something different. That's fine. I can get on board with that. I don't have a problem with that one. But I don't know. I guess like if they're thinking that a sect outside of the Jedi would have trained this person to be able to fight Jedi, I don't know. The Jedi fought wars in between the Sith War with Bane and Maul. So
It wasn't the Mando War in there, or was the Mando War before the Sith War?
The Mandalorian War was in there because that's the war where Dooku turned to the dark side.
Yeah.
That's when he left the Jedi. So again, like I can buy that you would have this character who shows up and kills two Jedi, and the Jedi are looking at this and they're like, okay, well, this obviously isn't just your run-of-the-mill baddie. Obviously, they've got some kind of training from somebody who knows how to be able to fight us.
And that's where the Sith connection that a lot of people made was there, yes.
Yeah, to me, though, now that I've had the context of that, that to me sounds like people trying to reach.
Episode
again,
5.
There were Dark Jedi, there were Fallen Jedi, there were Gray Jedi, there were people who had proclivities with the Force who weren't Jedi or Sith, never wielded a lightsaber, but they had an innate ability with it. They might not have been able to manifest it as great as Jedi did, but they had an innate ability with it. And all you would need to be able to do is know it enough to be able to predict what your opponent was going to do. You don't have to know you don't have to know everything your opponent knows if in the moments where it matters you can guess reasonably what their most likely move is to be to counter them.
Well, in this episode, there's a line. It's between Darth Smilo Ren and then Master Soul, where they knock off the helmet and they find out who it is. Not one of the mothers, which everybody thought it was going to be, that they were going to go ahead and spin as one of the mothers. So credit to them for not doing that. But it was the other character that they thought it was going to be.
I guess it's a white guy?
No, he's Asian.
Oh.
Because the Jedi Master is Asian, so you can't have a white guy. That'd be Asian hate. But
No, it'd have to be a black guy. Asian hate overwhelmingly is black people assaulting Asians. But go on.
Assassin's Creed Shadow. But anyway, and there's a line where the Master Soul's like, "Well, what are you?" And he's like, "Well, I'm not a Jedi. I guess I'm what you people call me, and that's a Sith." It's like, okay, there it is. And then the episode ends with Master Soul and May, because she switches spots with Ocean. Of course, they're twins. And then they take off and leave. And then they do the annoying thing again that was only introduced with Disney Star Wars, is the Sith dude finds May, or Osha, I mean, because they switched, and he force heals her, which was entirely only created for Rey, but they decided to put it in this too.
No. Wrong.
It was in games, but if they could force heal like that, why did Qui-Gon die?
Okay, all right. So, look, inconsistency, that's one argument. But to say that they just made this up, that's inaccurate. That's been a thing for a long time. They just, at the time, let's be really honest here, at the time when Phantom Menace was written, they hadn't thought about that because Lucas hadn't even touched, most likely, Star Wars for like 30 years at that point.
But if I recall correctly, whenever Rey does use it, she calls it an old Jedi skill. If I recall correctly.
It would have been.
So then why?
There's a whole other set of questions of how Rey would have been able to know how to do that, which is a whole other conversation about the shit that she was able to get away with.
Yeah, because apparently Leia knew how to do it. She had less training than Luke did.
Again, the guy calling himself a Sith, that's like, again, to me, that screams fans who just want to be angry, who are getting angry over, like, okay. So
Well, okay, I don't know if that's pissing people off. Okay, because this is literally right after watching it. I haven't checked Twitter. I haven't checked reactions. I haven't checked anything like that. I'm just making a comment about the show. I'm not saying that's what pissed people off.
So I'm gonna make an assumption that people are gonna be upset about the fact that this dude wearing this derpy ass helmet called himself the Sith.
More than likely.
Pretty good folks can be upset about that. Here's the thing, though. Okay, if you're the bad guy, and like you know enough about the hero, or the faction of heroes that you happen to be in conflict with, to know who their bad guy is, like who their primary adversary would be, just for the cool factor, like, wouldn't you lie? Even if you weren't. Like, how many times has that? I can't think of an example off the top of my head, but I swear to God this has happened before, where you have a villain who pretends to be somebody that they're not, or to be something that they're not, just because it's kind of cool.
Didn't Barriss do that in Clone Wars?
You're not really, or kind of like
Luminara's apprentice.
The dude from Hannibal, who pretends to be the Chesapeake Ripper, even though he's not, and he knows he's not.
Will?
He pretends to be because, like, he's the Hannibal Lecter, the Chesapeake Ripper at this time, because they don't know who he is.
Yeah.
He's like the big name that the FBI's after. He pretends to be, and then Hannibal ends up showing him why that was a really, really poor decision to make. But still, like, okay, if people do get upset about that, again, that just screams to me people who want to be angry about something and are looking to be angry about something. Now, the force healing thing, actually, to me, though, that's the one where I would have a bit of an issue, because I don't think Sith have been able to do that.
Not that I recall, no.
When Palpatine found Vader on Mustafar, for a brief moment, Palpatine thought about leaving him there to die.
Yep.
But Vader was so angry, he was so consumed with hatred and anger, that Palpatine realized that he was still extraordinarily powerful, even in this debilitated state. But Palpatine didn't heal him. He used the Force essentially to put him, like, prevent him from dying, but he didn't heal him any. He just sort of put him in like a stasis or a coma or something long enough for them to be able to get him on the ship and stabilize him enough to take him back and get him outfitted with his uniform. I don't know that the Sith are able to heal.
As far as I know, that a Sith wouldn't even want to do that.
Yeah, that's like where I would be like, I don't know. I mean, even if you go back, again, if you look at SWTOR, they had, like, obviously your character is kind of canon, but not really. But like even in some of the trailers for that, I'm thinking of the one with Malgus and his master, where they attacked the Zabrak and his apprentice. Can't remember her name either. Revan's wife. When his master gets stabbed, the master doesn't heal himself, or when he gets slashed in the face, he doesn't heal. You would think if they were able to do that, and that guy was a pure-blooded Sith. He
Right.
had the red skin, the like I don't think Sith can do that.
No.
I would have to check, but I don't think they've ever done that. If for no reason more than it's kind of contrary to like their whole shtick.
That's where I would argue that they've never done it. It would be contrary to everything they are.
So that guy might not be. Again, he's probably not a Sith. He's probably a fallen Jedi of some kind. And if you remember,
He was never, according to what they said, he was never a Jedi. He's self-taught, is what they're going with.
wait, man, that's really lame. Because there's like what, 12, 13 fallen Jedi. There's a whole room in the Jedi temple that's devoted to them. It has statues of all of the Jedi that have ever fallen.
Just goes back to lazy writing. That's the thing too, and why the D, I don't know, is decanonized a word? I'm gonna make it one. They decanonized everything about Star Wars that was cool, like everything they could have done, especially with something like this.
Well,
But
you could have done it. You could have done it where it could have been a character who maybe wasn't a fallen Jedi, but was the son of a fallen Jedi, or a nephew of a fallen Jedi, and all he had growing up was he had a natural proclivity to the Force because his father did, or it ran in his family. Most likely would have been his father or whatever. And then all he has growing up is his father telling him stories about why he left the Jedi for. You know, all of these things that they did that he just couldn't get on board with, so he left. Not all of them became Sith. I think only a handful of them did. Quinlan Vos from the Old Republic was a Jedi before he became a Sith, and then he became a Jedi again just before he died. And then Dooku.
Yep.
I can't think of any others that would have been in that statue room. I know Quinlan Vos was one of them, and Dooku was one of them. So you could have made it so that one of those characters tied into this somehow. This person is related to one of them, and all they had growing up was these stories of both the Jedi when they were great and then the Jedi when they were terrible. So then this person is like, okay, well, you made my family member's life miserable. They left everything they loved behind because they couldn't get behind what you were doing. So now I'm going to take this vendetta that's not really mine, but maybe they can't do anything about it anymore, so I'm going to. Revenge story.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. They could have done so much stuff with this, and they didn't want to because they thought. And then I don't know if you heard the thing that was said too, but when Leslye Headland took this to Kathleen Kennedy's quoted as crying at how perfect it was, like literally brought to tears.
Well, that's because Kathleen Kennedy's a fucking retard.
Do you know what she's done previous to becoming the president of Lucasfilm or Star Wars or whatever?
I know she was attached to what's Spielberg's company? What's his company? Amblin.
Yeah, so she was pretty much an assistant when it comes to making movies. Twister, Indiana Jones.
She was either attached to Edward Scissorhands or
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So, and then they're just like, oh yeah, well, President, Star Wars, here you go. And the first thing she did after, of course, the whole George Lucas thing was finally fulfilled, was all the books, all the novels, all the games. We don't give a fuck about that. And it's funny too, because I think it was right after Force Awakens comes out, she did an interview and she's like, well, you know, we just don't have enough material to pull from. We don't have enough. There's nothing out there for us to make stories with. And it's like, cause you threw it all away.
Yeah, it's just disingenuous. It's just, they had everything that they needed. You know what I would love to see, and I know George Lucas can't do this because he doesn't own the rights to Star Wars anymore. But I would love he would have had better lawyers or would have negotiated some, because I would actually love to see the scripts that George Lucas had, because he had a whole nother set of scripts for another set of movies that he wanted to do.
Yep.
Before they did that transaction. I would have loved to have seen what he had.
Did you hear the rumors of what they were?
No.
So it was Darth Maul and it was a Sith Twi'lek who were trying to take over again, and Luke had to go after Darth Maul. That's pretty much all I know.
Oh, we'll see. That would have been fucking dope.
Would have been, could have been.
That'd have been great. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Disney and Star Wars, and again, like, they had so much to pull from. It's the same thing with Marvel. You have so much source material that you can pull from, and they do this thing where they gain access to all of this information, all of these stories that they could tell. They intentionally put themselves in a box. And then they go out and they say, we're in this box because there's not enough for us to work with. So now we have to write ourselves out of this box that we made.
Yep.
And that's precisely what they did with Star Wars. I mean, again, like, go all the way back to where we started out with The Force Awakens. As soon as that movie started to open up, immediately something in my stomach was like, this immediately seems off. Something about this is not right. Walked out of that movie fucking pissed off. And I've told you this before. Of the 3 Disney Star Wars films, Force Awakens, Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker, the one that I like the most is the one that everybody else hates the most.
Last Jedi.
Actually, Last Jedi. And the only reason that I like Last Jedi more than the other 2 is because it's the only one where they took any risks at all. Luke is a grouchy old man. He doesn't want anything to do with the Force. He throws his lightsaber away. He's like, fuck this, I'm done. This sucks ass. You find out that he tried to, I believe it's in Last Jedi, where you find out that he was going to kill Kylo Ren because he received some sort of vision that he was going to go to the dark side, right? Like, cool, all right, great. You're doing something, like, wildly out of character for these characters, and I understand why that pissed people off.
I was going to say that's exactly what pissed people off, is how out of character that was for Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, but thank God, at least you're taking a fucking chance. You're trying to do something different. Good for you, even if it didn't work.
Well, the argument then could be made that's exactly everything they've done with Star Wars so far.
I disagree, though.
How?
Because, like, Disney has done some character assassination, but
Some?
not really a lot of it. A lot of it, they a lot of what they've done is not character assassination, in so much as they're pushing political ideologies.
No, they assassinated Obi-Wan's character pretty good.
Well, again, I would disagree with that.
Well, you didn't watch the whole show. You saw the snippets. Exactly.
But I know that he surrenders his connection to the Force, and then he picks it up back at the end at the fight. All of a sudden, just happens to be able to plug back into it. Jedi, I believe it's been established that there have been people that have been able to cut their connection to the Force, and then they're able to gain it back somehow. Obviously, not that immediately, but okay.
Well, and then they also made him extremely retarded.
Disney doesn't do, usually they don't do character assassinations. They push political narratives. So the thing is, with Last Jedi, yes, it was wildly contrary to Luke, but again, like, and that's the thing that bothered me about the criticism for The Last Jedi. I understand why people were upset about it, because again, like, it does seem wildly out of character for Luke Skywalker, and I'm not going to disagree with you in that it is. But here's the thing. You got to keep in mind where he just came from. Like, what he's done. He had to overcome being essentially, after Yoda, the last living Jedi, blew up one Death Star, lost an arm to his father, had to go and blow up another Death Star after fighting his father and the most powerful Sith that's ever lived. So I can understand where you would maybe go, okay, it's not unreasonable for this character then, having just established this new Jedi Order, and presumably has a bunch of younglings that he's training to become Jedi, might overlook overreact a little bit whenever he starts to get vision or whatever that this person might end up going to the dark side.
His nephew?
Because of the PTSD. Yeah.
Except it was his dad, and he was willing to risk his life to save his dad.
Again, I understand that, but the thing, I would say that it's not out of the realm of possibility if for no reason more than look at what Vader did before his redemption.
Okay, but Vader had 10 to 15 years of...
Okay. Yeah, blah, 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 blah. Wait, I'm not done. All of the problems that he caused, right? Vader kills Luke's mom. Right? First, actually, Vader eliminates the CIS entirely. He kills all of those people.
Younglings first.
Then he goes to... Okay, yeah, him and the stormtroopers, the 501st, kill all of the younglings, right? Or as many of them as they could get. A couple of them escaped for whatever reason, but who cares? Then he kills the CIS leaders. Then he kills Luke's mom. Then he tries to kill Obi-Wan and doesn't. Then you have this whole period that Luke's not even aware of initially where Vader is systematically going through and he's killing every single Jedi that he can find. Torturing them first if he gets the chance to, and then just killing them for the giggles of it, right? Cool. Seemingly unassailable. Now, imagine that you're the guy who somehow, at the tail end, managed to... Luke didn't even manage to redeem Vader. Vader redeemed himself. He made the choice to save his son. Luke didn't redeem him. That didn't happen. Vader made that choice. Okay, so now imagine that you've got a bunch of younglings that you're training who aren't terribly proficient in the Force. I'm making some assumptions here, but just roll with me, right? Probably aren't very proficient in the Force, okay? You are the only Jedi, corporeal Jedi at that point, who's able to train them to do anything. And now all of a sudden you're getting word that maybe, or visions or impressions or whatever, I think it was supposed to be a vision that he got or a dream.
If I recall correctly, it was a dream.
That Kylo Ren, one of your pupils, and who also happens to be your nephew, is going to fall to the dark side. It's not an if, it's not a maybe, it's not a this might happen. It's essentially it's deception, right? He gets a vision or a dream that Kylo Ren is going to fall to the dark side. He makes a rash choice to try to prevent that from happening, and in so doing, he creates the very future that he was afraid of. Kylo joins the dark side because Luke tried to kill him. And again, if we want to be fair to Last Jedi, Luke changed his mind. At the last second before he made the strike, he stopped. He decided he wasn't going to go through with it. He couldn't do it. He was standing over him. He was going to do it, and then he decided he couldn't do it. He wasn't going to go through with this. So, yes, was it out of character? Absolutely. Was it a stretch? Absolutely. But again, I could see where this dude, PTSD or whatever, or just like not wanting to do this again, might make a real shit rash decision, which is exactly what he did. And his better senses, to his credit, to all of the Luke stands out there who were mad about the fact that that's the way that they went with it, again, his good side did win out. He decided he didn't want to do it. He just didn't do it before Kylo woke up and saw what he was attempting to do. And he creates his own worst nightmare. He ends up creating Kylo Ren because he pushed his nephew away after he tried to whack him. Yeah, it's wildly out of character, but it's not so far out of character that I can't sit here and go, yeah, I could buy that. I could buy that happening, for sure. You don't want all of your younglings to get absolutely slaughtered by this person, and then you're back to square one, where you're older now, years have gone by, you might not be in peak shape anymore, and you are the only person who can teach these pupils, presumably, how to be a Jedi. And if you fail, now you have to start all over again.
I still agree with most of the population in the fact that it was trash. But how much battery's left on your laptop?
I got 40 minutes, but I can go out in the living room and plug it in.
That's okay, because it's already been almost 2 hours, and it's about 1 o'clock in the morning. I don't want to keep... What time is it there? 11?
11.
Oh, okay. Well, there's really only 2 more things.
Let me go out to the living room and plug this in.
Is everybody in bed?
Yeah.
Can you not go
Everybody's
grab your charger?
No, because I don't have anywhere to plug it in here.
Oh, okay.
So we're gonna take a trip.
On our favorite rocket ship?
Remember, ladies and gentlemen, that whoever might be coming into this, that we are not professionals.
No, this I'm surprised this has lasted the 2 hours.
Oh, I could go on woke and culture and all of that shit for hours and hours.
Well, this is supposed to be about the Acolyte, and we've already gone off on a few tangents.
Yeah, but they're all relevant tangents.
True.
So there's that. I'm gonna sit on the floor. Yep.
Okay. So then there's a scene near the end where May and Osha finally have a chance at dealing with their conflict with one another. And May, the bad one, tells Osha, can you still hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay. Where May tells Osha this line. They have brainwashed you and they have turned you against me. And then Osha comes back with, you have done this to yourself. Where have we heard that before?
Yeah. Again.
So the whole point behind the reason why I wanted to do this is they're taking George Lucas's... I think this whole season, the whole reason behind this Acolyte, because we don't know if there's a season 2, if it's a limited series or not. Highly doubt there'll be a season 2. But they did a season 2 for this cartoon for Velma, and Velma was really woke, did really bad, and they decided to do a season 2 for it. So I'm not terribly too surprised if they would do a season 2 for this. I think this is supposed to be a retale of the prequels. This is their prequels. Because they're taking almost everything that George Lucas had set up in the prequels with the story of Anakin and are rehashing it for May and Osha. Literally, the only difference is there's twins. And instead of the twins being Luke and Leia, it's supposed to be Anakin, which doesn't work.
Well, and again, the thing with that is like there are opportunities to tell stories about the Jedi being bad, right? Like
Right.
the brainwashing thing. Like, and the one that I think of is it's kind of a throwaway line in Revenge of the Sith, but where Obi-Wan says that Anakin and the Sith are evil, and Anakin says, well, from my point of view, the Jedi are evil. And it's like, okay, it's sort of just a throwaway line there before they start fighting, or mid-fight. It's mid-fight, I think, where he says that. But,
Yeah, I believe it's whenever they get to the platform, isn't it? Going over the lava river?
Yeah. Yeah. So, like, okay, so you've dropped that nugget there now, where you have this concept that people might not have been aware of, like, oh, okay, well, maybe the Jedi aren't all, maybe they're not so straight-laced. Maybe there is something about them that you could use to tell a story to show them as being maybe evil or antagonistic or whatever. And then if you go back and you look at established Star Wars lore, you could easily make a case for that. The Jedi
Would kidnap kids.
Do really that? But what else did they do?
Drawing a blank.
The Jedi. If the thing again, you could so make a show about this, and it would be so good if you did it right. The Sith and the Jedi are almost one-to-one exactly the same.
Pretty much.
The Jedi's critique primarily of the Sith, right, is that the Sith are, and this is something that you see with Sith throughout the movies, you see it throughout the books, you see it throughout comics, you see it throughout video games. The Sith are primarily afraid of losing power, right? They want power, and then they do anything they have to make sure that they can maintain that power, right? The Jedi are no different. They do the same thing. The exact same thing. What did the Jedi have that they didn't allow people access to? Their library. Lesser Jedi could not go into their library, and it was the most extensive library that existed. They had records from when the Republic was formed. They had records from beforehand. the proto Jedi and their fight against Sith back when I think his name was Naga, Krav Naga. What was his name?
That sounds right.
Anyway, like the first initial time that the Jedi and the Sith did battle, like they had books, they had scrolls, they had holodiscs, they had all this information, and what did they do with it?
Kept it for themselves.
They wouldn't let other people see it. Knowledge is power. The Jedi and the Sith are not that different operationally. It's just in the fine details where they differ. You could tell a really good story with that if it was written really well. And it would have to be subtle the way that it's done, though. You would have to very subtly sort of peel back the layers here so you could see, like, they're not that different. They both want the same thing. Well, this show just couldn't do it right. They couldn't do it that subtly. You couldn't have that slow burn effect where it's like, okay, maybe you have a character who's a Sith, maybe you have a character who's a Jedi, or Sith adjacent. One of them thinks the Jedi are evil, one of them thinks the Sith are evil. And then you have this sort of peel effect that happens where as the show progresses, they start to unearth or uncover that they're not that different. There's not a lot of difference between them. The Jedi believe that they're just in what they do because they see themselves as protectors. Well, okay, inherently to be a protector, what do you have to have? Someone weaker than you to protect. How do the Jedi make sure that they stay protectors? They hoard knowledge, i.e. power. They are always a step ahead. They're always a step above because they have access to something you don't.
Yep.
The Sith are not that different. They see themselves as conquerors. Okay, well, in order to be a conqueror, what do you have to have?
Power.
People to conquer. If you want to be a ruler, what do you have to have? Subjects. They're not that different. But
What's that?
Bothered to take...
I can't remember the movie, but there's a quote: two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
I can't remember what movie that's from.
It's essentially that. Like, I was thinking of the quote from Batman: "You either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain." You know, like, you could easily write a show, and a show would be perfect for it too. You could write a show very easily where you have these two contrasting characters who come from these different perspectives, and then they end up at a point where they realize both of these things aren't good. You know, Game Theory a long time ago did a video on, I can't remember what it was, specifically what it was. Oh, I think it was a Destiny video where they were talking about the light and the darkness. And one of the sections of the video, Matt Pat was talking how light is used in cinema to represent something that's good, and darkness is used to represent something that's evil. And he used a picture of Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader and Gandalf and Sauron as his contrasts for that. But the thing is like, again, that's a binary that's been created to make it easy for audiences to understand that one of these things is supposed to be good and the other one is supposed to be bad. But then if you look at media that's sort of matured over time, they start off with that premise. They start off with that binary existing because it's an easy way to get audiences to understand that this is the character that you're supposed to latch onto, and that's a very easy framework for people to understand. Good, bad, light, dark, whatever you want to roll with. What a lot of media does as it matures, though, is it starts to peel that back, and what you start to see is like, well, no, actually, it's shades of gray. You don't have, in a lot of cases, these contrasts that you can pull to that adhere to these stereotypes as much as you want to. Destiny has very recently done that within the last couple of years, where initially it was the light was good and the darkness was evil. And then over the last couple of years, they've changed the narrative down. They've had these slow moments where they've peeled back some, and they've revealed, no, actually, they just exist. They're just two cosmic forces that exist, light and darkness. What you do with them is what defines whether or not you are good or evil.
Well, right, because Mace Windu, the fighting style that he used, and he was the only one who used it, was pretty much tapping into the dark side.
Yep, I was about to say, canonically, it's in the Star Wars Encyclopedia that the only way that you could use that particular style as effectively as he did is you had to almost give in. You had to ride that very thin line in order to be effective with it.
And
that's exactly what I was going to say. Yep.
While Yoda didn't go full kilter into it, he dawdled with it a little bit. And you got to see a little bit of that in his fight with Sidious. You could tell Yoda was fighting with anger.
Yep. Well, and not just that too, but then you got to think about the fact that like Mace Windu and Yoda at the time that Order 66 happened were probably the two strongest Jedi that existed.
Right.
At that point, right? Mace Windu was able to block lightning with his lightsaber, and that was a struggle. He was fighting it the entire time. If you recall, in that scene, he sort of is leaning back and then forward and then back again because it's taking him so much effort to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And then you look at Yoda, and it took Yoda what, a second and a half, 2,
About
to be able to turn around and then start to hold it in his hand. And then
yeah, if I recall correctly, he didn't even move that much. He had his hands out and like he moved like that, but he was able to hold it after that. He didn't budge pretty much.
There's very clearly there some sort of moment where Yoda is able to get into that just enough to be able to pull that off. And Yoda didn't get scarred by it. Like
right.
He didn't have that. I mean, even Sidious got scarred by his own lightning, but Yoda didn't. And that's the whole thing. It's like if this show had been done well, you would have been able to do this thing where you could have easily had it set up where you end up getting to a point where, okay, you want audiences to think that the Jedi aren't all that great. You easily could do that. You could show that this binary, start off with the binary, one character good, one character bad, good and bad. And then as time goes on, you showcase, no, it's not that simple. It's what you do with this gift that makes you good or bad. If you use it to help people, that is a good thing. It doesn't make the gift itself good. It's what you're doing with it. Much like if you hurt people, it doesn't make the Force bad, the dark side. It's an expression of you as a person, your action that make it bad.
Right. Yep.
And then you would easily you could have made the whole dichotomy or binary pointless. Actually, written well enough, you could have had it come to a point where you and they end up right here. We don't want anything to do with either one of these. There's actually a thing in Star Wars that refers to those characters who sit up there in that middle section. They're called Gray Jedi. Gray Jedi in Star Wars were just Jedi who decided they didn't want to be Jedi anymore. They didn't agree with what the Jedi did, but they didn't agree with what the Sith did. They just did their own thing. Story right there.
I want to see. The actual term Gray Jedi is not canon. So, are you still there? Or are you froze? Are you still here? Oh, okay, good. Good. I'm trying to find who created the Gray Jedi. If it was Lucas or if it was Filoni. Did Filoni make the Gray Jedi? It looks like Filoni did. Because they mentioned Ahsoka's potential of being a Gray Jedi. Let's see.
Okay, here we go.
I mean, there was a tease that Qui-Gon was considered a Gray Jedi, but I'm trying to find out who started the term Gray Jedi. And I'm not finding that.
It was initially the fans that did it because of Qui-Gon.
Oh, okay. No, but what I wanted to touch a note on is when you mentioned Wikipedia earlier, or Wikipedia, they're actually changing their character stuff based off of Disney's things. So they've already changed Ki-Adi-Mundi's history based off this episode that came out.
Yeah. Let me go back to the Grey Jedi here for a second. So
Go ahead.
The Grey Jedi. The first thing that it does say is that the Grey Jedi, the Grey Jedi Code is not an official part of the Star Wars canon, neither in the universe's pre-Disney buyout Legends Incarnation nor the current rebooted canon. The idea of a code is a fan invention developed after the Grey Jedi were first introduced. If the Jedi and Sith follow a code, then logically those who toe the line must as well also. Now, the code that they have is very interesting. There are different versions of it, which again, the whole point behind the Grey Jedi is it's a concept that fans created of characters who wouldn't toe the line. Like they weren't as easy to classify as just good or just bad. They were just people. And so one of the versions of their code is flowing through all there is balance. There is no peace without a passion to create. There is no passion without peace to guide. Knowledge stagnates without the strength to act. Power blinds without the serenity to see. There is freedom in life. There is purpose in death. The force is all things, and I am the force. And again, the thing about that's interesting is this would have been a really good way for you to be able to introduce this into the canon if you had competent writers, because there's digs here at the Jedi and at the Sith. The first line is, there is no peace without a passion to create. Well, the Jedi are the ones who emphasize peace.
You're cutting in and out really bad, dude. Dude.
The second line is no passion without peace to guide. Same thing. It's this balance between the two of these. Then the third line is a direct jab. Can you hear me now?
No, you're cutting in and out, dude. Like, really bad.
No? Can you hear me now?
Kind of. But everything you just said's gone.
Right. Hello?
Yeah, we're losing you, dude.
Can you hear me?
Kind of, but you're still cutting in and out badly.
I haven't moved any. Alright, let me see if this makes it any better. Alright, I closed the tab. Am I gone now?
Try talking for a little bit. Uh-oh.
Do you want me to call you so I can finish that thought and then we'll end it?
Just go ahead, just talk slowly. And don't move too much. Except your screen just went black. Hello?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can.
Alright, hold on. I'm gonna mute the phone and see if you can hear me.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So, basically, what I was getting at there is the Grey Jedi, they're not canon, right? Yet. But that's the thing. You could have made them canon with this show if you would have done it right. The Grey Jedi Code specifically talks about how there can't be peace without passion. There can't be passion without peace. The third line in the code says that knowledge stagnates without strength to act. That's a direct dig at the Jedi. The Jedi hoarded knowledge, but they wouldn't act. They didn't do anything. They just sat on all this information that they had. And then the fourth line talks about power. How I can't remember exactly what the fourth line of it is, but power is, they essentially, again, it's a dig at the Sith. So the first two lines of their code are a connection between a light side virtue and dark side virtue. The third line is a direct dig at the Jedi. The fourth line is a direct dig at the Sith. You could have easily wrote that into this. Easily. But nope. Nope, we can't have that.
Well, I think that's potentially what she wanted to end it with. Because that's kind of what it seems like it's going to now. But, wait, is that a new one? Did your one die?
It's almost dead.
Oh, it's almost like that's where she wants this to go. She just doesn't know how to do it.
Yeah.
And along the way, she's shitting on everything George Lucas had, which is where the Anakin bit comes in, the Kiadimundi part. There was one alien that showed up, like I mentioned before when I was talking to you, that looked exactly like Plo Koon, and we've never seen another Plo Koon alien before. So people were like, is that Plo? And I think someone came out and said, no, it's not. I think Theory did, but he also didn't know it's Kiadimundi. He had to go back and look at the credits for the Acolyte, and that's when they showed voice for Kiadimundi was X.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me. So you didn't get any of what I read, the code, did you?
We got the code. It was right after that where you.
All right. Yeah. The last two lines of it. Knowledge or not last two, but knowledge stagnates without the strength to act. Let's dig at the Jedi. Power blinds without the serenity to see. Knowledge is in the Jedi code. Strength is in the Sith code. Power is in the Sith code. Serenity is in the Jedi code. Again, like it seems like they had someone somewhere in the process of this writing might have had the idea of being able to bring this at this point intangible concept into canon, but it just got lost in all the rest of the slush.
Yeah.
And then you've got all the other things. You've got all the other things that this show did intentionally. It seems like just to piss fans off. You know, like, and that's the thing about it too. That's so egregious about this is it's not just the ignorance. It's not just the arrogance of it. It's not just the lack of research that went into this. It's also the fact that like there are very clearly deliberate steps that they took for no reason more than because they knew it would be controversial and it would piss people off.
Well, they did that. Well, the whole thing is they don't want Star Wars fans. They want Disney Star Wars fans.
Yep.
Because that's their whole thing.
That's
like
why...
the people that I watch, Geeks and Gamers, Nerdrotic, that you've, I guess, recently started up with, their theory is that here pretty soon they're going to rewrite the original trilogy. And that's why we had a Solo movie. They're trying to make it to where they're going to bring in a new cast and Disneyfy the original trilogy.
Maybe, but if I recall correctly, I do believe that the contractual agreement that Lucas signed prohibits them from being able to uncanonize his work.
Well, they already did.
Specifically his work. No. His work.
Yeah, they did.
So the movies. They didn't uncanonize the movies.
They just did with Kiadimundi.
No. That was a writing fuck up. What I'm saying is they can't go back and redo the originals.
Oh, they will.
In like overtly, according to the contract. Now, what they could do is they could Force Awakens it, where it's like, oh, here's a new story, and then you get about 40 minutes into the movie, and it's like, no, that's really not a new story. It's the
Well,
same
that's why I'm
story,
saying
just
that they've
repackaged.
already done it. It's like the Force Awakens was already the original trilogy, and now at the Acolyte we've got the prequels.
Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. If Disney wants to shoot their shot at redoing the originals and the prequels, fine. I don't care. I mean, I do care, obviously, but this ship is too far gone to save at this point.
Pretty much.
The originals and the prequels have to stay canon according to the contract. For me, that's where Star Wars dies. For me, Star Wars ends at the final episode of Clone Wars. For me, that's where it ends.
I'm willing to throw a little bone with Rogue One. Rogue One wasn't that bad, written wise.
Oh yeah, I mean chronologically. I'm talking chronologically.
Oh.
Anything? Well, I guess Rogue One. Yeah, I'll give it Rogue One. Anything past that point, though, no.
Yeah,
No.
same.
For me, it ends at that point.
Yep.
And Disney can take this abomination that they've created, and they can sail off into the, rainbow-colored sunset with it on a ship covered in dildos and scissors, and just do their own thing, because I don't need to be a part of that anymore.
Well, it kind of sucks that it's gotten to the point where people that have been fans for years are willing to write off something that's been part of their lives for decades at this point. So I guess to round this off, what would it take to save Star Wars in your opinion?
The mouse has to go.
I agree.
Disney would have to go. Or. The only other thing I could see, because the thing is, like, the problem with Wars and this Marvel also is they essentially act as ATMs, or they did up until Disney fucked it up. You slap Star Wars on something, and it makes money.
Oh yeah.
Used to. You slap Marvel on something and it makes money. Used to. Right? They're not going to want to relinquish that.
No.
So the only other thing that you could do is you would have to have somebody come in who's able to gain access to the property and do their own thing with it. Like how, and the example that I'm thinking of is how EA lost exclusivity to the Star Wars license like a year ago, 2 years ago.
Oh, I was thinking about Elon Musk's Twitter.
And what that did is, well, I don't think a buyout's going to happen.
No,
I don't think
not.
they're going to let it go.
I don't think they're gonna buy out, but someone could come in and reshape Lucasfilm and Disney. I think that's the only way it's gonna have to go. They're gonna have to core out the core of what is Disney, and I don't see that happening.
Maybe. But here's the thing, though. I don't want them to save Disney.
No, I don't want them to save Disney either. Okay. They'd have to core out Lucasfilm. Hello? Are you there? Fuck. Where did he go? He just left me. Motherfucker left me. The hell you do, boy?
I didn't do anything. It just cut out on me.
Well, it's not letting me get you back in here.
Well, if you're still recording, and I'm assuming you are, I'll just answer your question.
Okay.
Here's the thing, like you were talking about with Twitter and X, that's possible. But again, that to me would have to be a Disney thing, and that's never going to happen. But, and I don't think a restructure even would work. I think what you would have to do is you would have to get somebody in there who could gain equal access, and they could tell their own parallel story. And then essentially you would just have a battle of the fandoms. You would end up having people who are on board with what Disney does, and then you would end up having a whole other set of people who are on board with what the other thing does. And it would be weird and confusing as shit, and would probably terminate the hell out of Star Wars. But that, to me, seems like the only way there's going to be any shot at redemption is somebody's going to have to come in and somehow be able to lawyer their way into being able to get access to enough of the franchise, the key parts of it, to be able to turn it around. Outside of that, I don't see a way that that's going to work.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, well, any closing comments since we kind of lost you?
Nope. Other than it was fun to shit on Disney for a little while.
Well, as soon as I figure out what the fuck is going on, we're going to be doing more of these.
Sounds good.
All right, I'll let you go.
Alrighty, mate.
All right, see you later.
Au revoir.
Bye.
Bye.
So that, in a nutshell, was our hash on Acolyte. We kind of got off on a Star Wars tangent, which was going to happen because we're both Star Wars fans, and we kind of went off on a tangent whenever it comes to different aspects that I brought up with Star Wars. It's just what's going to happen because, again, we are fans. We are sad to see it go, but I think this is it. Acolyte is the death for Appreciate being involved. Oh, yeah, dude. Oh, yeah. But this is it. Acolyte is going to be the final nail in the coffin. We do have Skeleton Crew coming out, but I'm not expecting anything outrageously fun with that either. And we've kind of prattled on for some of this a little bit longer than we probably should have, but we were having fun with it. We were getting into different topics, and then I'm pretty sure that every single one of the topics that we kind of spun off into fit with the general topic at hand. So after seeing Acolyte episode 5, I can final thought, fuck the mouse, agree. Final thoughts is this episode wasn't as bad as all the other ones. One of the things I wanted to get into that we didn't really have time to, which is funny to say because we've been doing this for 2.5 hours, is the lightsaber fights were actually fine. The lightsaber fights, they actually moved fast. There was actually some life to the combat, which we didn't have in Disney Star Wars with the Darth Vader Obi-Wan, the Reva Obi-Wan, the Rey and Kylo, and then even the little bit we got with Finn and Kylo. There was actually some movement and like some heat to the lightsaber fights. So I'm going to go ahead and keep going down the rabbit hole and see what people have thought. I'm pretty sure Theory's already got a short video cut up of his reaction put out because he does about 4 hours, and I've already done 2.5, and I feel like kind of coming to a head with this topic, but not their worst. It still, no matter how much you polish a turd, it's still a turd. So I'm not saying the Acolyte's saved. I'm not saying Star Wars is saved. I'm just saying that out of all the shit, this one was the nicest. So as final thoughts go, thanks everybody who tuned in. According to my current count, we had Jess, you still here? I'll wait for a comment to pop into the chat, and then I'll let you know how many folks popped in throughout our 2.5 hours. We had quite a few people pop in. I'm actually surprised at how many people popped in. You still here? We had 56 people pop in, which is a whole lot more than I thought was going to happen. I was expecting like 20, but we had 56 people pop in. Appreciate all of you. Let me do a recount real here. No new subs. That's perfectly fine. We had 56 people pop in, which is cool. I am ending the stream now. If this is something you guys want to see, I'm planning the next one that I have planned out as far as one of these discussion things go. Yeah, 56, dude. The next one of these that I have planned out right now to do with him is Deadpool 3 when that comes out. We're definitely going to sit down and we're going to talk about that. Ahead of time, there are going to be spoilers because we're going to want to discuss everything, and I'm not going to do it, what's that Tyrone? Magnus says, mullet style. Spoiler free up front, and then spoilers at near the end. No, we're just going to do a whole hash and spoiler talk of Deadpool 3. And that's what I've got planned out so far, because there's really nothing coming out in between that we would necessarily get into a discussion with. If he streamed, we could do one for Destiny 2, because I've played all the story elements, and just like he has tidbits of the Acolyte, I have tidbits of Destiny, but I don't really like Destiny all that much. I like the story aspects to it. I didn't really like anything of the in-betweens, which he can attest to. I've played damn near every single one of the DLCs that's come out with him, so I'm going off on a tangent. I'm going to let y'all go. Appreciate everybody who popped in.